sex dates and sex weekends, and I think this is hot. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Why your partner disrespects you and how you have the power to influence a different lifestyle, a different adventure for your marriage.
Will this work for me? Stop sending miles of text messages.
Your wife withholding sex from you.
Truth, integrity, moving fast, and sound decisions. Welcome to the Morrow Marriage podcast, guys. Today I want to talk about sex dates and sex weekends, and I think this is hot.
Ooh, I didn't know what we were talking about.
You never know.
It is hot.
All right, so here's the thing. Okay, if you know anything about us, we actually really did the solid work and saved our marriage during COVID when we couldn't go out and date. And so one of the things that we had to figure out was these different types of dates. And obviously, if you're listening to this podcast,
it's about sex. Dates. Dates, plural.
You can't just have sex nights, sex dates, sex weekends. What are you doing with this?
Plural.
Plural.
Can't just do it once.
Now I got it. Okay, we might not be able to. We
means,
might not be able to finish this episode. All right, here's the thing, guys. So you want to be able to work your way up to this kind of connection. Now we hear this all the time. We hear from people that they don't have the time. And forget sex for a second, just quality time together. They don't have the time to do that. You know, I had several calls this week, honey, where men, and the woman I introduced you to, she said the same thing. You know, we're building our business and, you know, we're trying to do all stuff and we don't really have the time. Guys, you have to have the time.
I think it's funny when people say that to us.
I think it's hilarious.
Because we are building businesses and our children are still very young and I'm a homeschool mom. He is doing everything with the business that he could possibly do. Don't tell us of all people, you cannot say that you don't have the time. Would you agree, honey?
I do. I think you guys, you know, what you might need to realize is we all have the same fucking clock and calendar. No one's special. Okay. And so we think because we have extra kids, and I say extra because lots of times it's 4, 5, 6 kids, you know, or blended families or whatever, you know, or because we have the businesses, whatever it is that you think you are it's preventing you from doing this. Maybe, another good one is the people who don't have support. Listen, we don't have support. Kathryn, find support. You know, you have to learn, just like you would in your business, just like you would in your life, to balance everything out and find ways to do it. And there are 7 types of dates. And if you want to have the good intimacy, the sex dates would be, you know, longer sessions, as you pointed out on a podcast recently. We were being interviewed, and Kathryn was like, "This guy likes the marathons. I don't." But we make the time for the marathons because
we compromise.
We compromise. That's right. And
we got chickens. That's what we often say.
And somehow I got turkeys, man. Jeez, what the heck? She calls it my side chick. All right.
We have to tell the story. You have to pause and tell the story of why I call it turkeys or side chicks.
Okay, you tell the story.
Okay, so I saw a reel on Instagram, or what do you call it? A reel when it's on Instagram?
Yes,
okay. So, and it was like, I got my husband some side chicks, and it's turkeys that are following him around like little ducks, and that's what the turkeys do for cats. He's trying to get lots of different dogs. We've tried to, we've almost foster failed a bunch of rescues. We can never keep them because they don't love him the way that he needs. But we finally got these 3 turkeys, and lo and behold, they are literal chicks. I mean, they're grown chicks, but they're, you know, and they follow him around. So they're his side chicks.
Needless to say, that's not involved in the sex weekend. Okay.
No.
For obvious reasons.
That was just funny on the compromise marathon versus quickie. And you guys have heard, if you've been listening to the podcast for long enough, we say, if your wife wants chickens and your husband doesn't want chickens, you compromise and you get chickens. If your husband wants a marathon and your wife doesn't want a marathon, you compromise and you have the marathon.
That's right.
That's why chickens are important.
Now let's get back to it. Okay. So if we are having, you know, the kind of intimacy on the rejection ladder where you're climbing up, that means, you know, it's everything from conversations to flirts, non-sexual flirting to sexual flirting, banter, it's non-sexual and sexual. And then of course you're having the 7 types of dates. And in those types of dates, you get to the sex stuff. Now it could be quick. We call it business meeting. We sneak off, we have a business meeting, and that is like, it's a go-to move.
Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am.
That's right. Okay. Now that is important to understand that a lot of times that's for connection. A lot of the guys in the program, you know, they're going through the stage where, you know, they can tell that their wife is doing it for them and they get really upset. And I remember that phase where you're afraid because you don't want that job sex anymore. You don't want her checking out the to-do list. But at the same time, when you have a wife that wants to connect and be there for you, those are important little rendezvous.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That I can be the one. I'm the only one, but I think it's beautiful that I can be the one to allow you to feel that way.
That's right.
And if it makes me feel powerful as well.
You've mentioned that many times.
Yeah.
And now, of course, you have to be connected for that to really happen, right? Now, then, of course, then you have like the longer sessions. And we would say we would try to go for at least once a week where it's the marathon that I want, but that's not always possible because of life.
I heard someone describe it once as the smorgasbord, the buffet, where everybody eats.
Ooh.
So once a week. I don't know
if I can make it through the rest of these episodes today.
Once a week, everybody eats.
So it's important to understand that that's intention because that's difficult with timing. Okay. And then in order to remove the difficulties, you can plan a night away, right? That's what we've done recently again.
Yes.
Right. It depends. We had to take a break from that for a little while. Well, we had to figure out childcare and things like that when we moved to Texas, right? When we came here. And so now we're kind of getting back on track. You have to make time to be intentional for this. But again, those of you who are listening and you really want to pick up your intimacy again, you're going to have to work lower. It's really unreasonable to expect a night away from the kids and the distractions to be doing that stuff if, in fact, you're not actually connected, right? You know, how many times back in the day, I would try to force these, at least the 3-hour stuff and, you know, all the activities.
I remember that.
Like every week. And I mean, we were distracted. No mom in mom mode listening to the kids is going to be able to really handle that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you would. You get very frustrated.
I was very frustrated, and I wanted to try to get on board with these 3-hour sex dates, and it wasn't 3 hours of sex, you guys. He would massage me, and it was all the things that you think about to get you into the mood. It wasn't like I was just his sex toy for 3 hours. It's not what that looked like.
It's sex toy.
He was.
Oh man, that was bad.
At one point you were, but when we got to the 3-hour sex date, you were actually quite thoughtful and you wanted to do it right, but it still didn't work for our situation because we still had 3 children at that time. It needed to be either when they were asleep or when they weren't home. And if they weren't home, then we were supposed to be working. And so our minds are doing other things. And if they were home, they'd have to be sleeping because you can't leave your 3 children under the age of like 3/4 at the time.
Yeah.
For like any longer than 2 minutes. You guys know what it's like. You'll have spray paint on the walls or somebody's going to be out in the middle of the street.
It's true.
You watch your children, you take care of your children. You don't prioritize your sex life over your children, but you do have to prioritize it in line with your life, in line with your children, in line with your family, and your husband does need to be a priority. And
here's the thing, you know, you guys have to understand, this is so important. Sex and intimacy is a gift for marriage. You know, the jokes, one vagina for the rest of your life is what guys tell other dudes when they're getting married. And we understand where this has gone wrong. I mean, we lived it. You're listening to our story all the time. Of course, it becomes a challenge when you're not connected. You have to start focusing on the foundation again. But you should understand that I do talk a lot about sex on my content, and I do think it's important. And I often joke, some people like Netflix. I like having sex, right? The point is you get to a point. I do. The point is you get to a point where you don't need it to survive, but you're intentional to connect together. Wouldn't you say? That's the right way?
Yes. And you don't need it to survive anymore.
No, because I needed it for validation before.
That's right.
I needed to feel loved. And the only way I felt loved was if we were intimate and we're having sex. But now when you understand the connection that the two of you can have, it becomes just a wonderful gift, whether it's the quickie, whether it is the marathon, or whether it's the overnight or a weekend. The whole point is it's just all bonus. It's what I call the checkered flag. If you're ready for your next steps, go.morrowmarriage.com. Go.morrowmarriage.com. Join our app, join our men and women's communities, and let's go change your life.
The checkered flag.
The checkered flag. And you can't win the race and you can't have the checkered flag if that's your primary focus and you're not focused on everything else. So those of you who are so disconnected and you want more, I mean, many, many women reach out to me just as many men do. And often many times more, and many women are referencing the same thing. They want more with their husbands. Focus lower on the ladder. How are you connecting? Husbands, same thing. If your wife feels like what Kathryn said a moment ago, like I'm using her as a sex toy, well, then she's not going to want to be there and connect with me. Okay. So you have to understand.
Because then it's not with. It's only for. That's
correct. Yeah. It's so important to understand this, guys. And when you do, it just becomes the beautiful gift that you are given as man and wife. Okay. We'll see you next time.